So you get a whole nother bite at the apple. And you're not dealing with the collections people. You're not dealing with exam. You're dealing with appeals at a higher level than you normally would.
So now let's dive right into maybe the biggest secret to being able to show and pass an exam and be able to provide representation for clients in the U.S. tax court. We're here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and one of the biggest things is we want to know is if someone uses the strategy, which we specialize in, the Deferred Sales Trust, what happens if you have to face the IRS or have to face the U.S. and some kind of legal battle? So tell us about your experience with the U.S. tax court, maybe even the IRS, and some of these things over your years.
Well, I fight the IRS on almost a daily basis. We have employment tax situations, which is our specialty. The IRS in fiscal 19 issued over $13 billion in employment tax penalties. And we're specialists at getting those abated and solved. And in some cases, you have to take those situations to U.S. tax court or district court. Not wanting to be an attorney, I became a U.S. tax court practitioner. I studied for it. I decided I was going to become one, and I did. The tenacity. So it took a couple of years of study. The U.S. tax court exam once every 2 years in November in D.C. at the tax court. That's the only time they give it. They really don't want us, but they're forced to, in that it's part of the law that established in the U.S. tax court that non-attorneys could practice in it. It was a holdover from the previous IRS appeals mechanism. So I sat for it and passed it here a number of years ago. But it lets me go to the court and present an argument and a petition. It's $60 to file a petition with the U.S. tax court. So it's cheap. You don't have to spend $5,000 for an attorney on a retainer to file a petition in district court. So by going to tax court, with tax court, you don't have to pay the taxes up front. The payment is deferred until the tax court case is settled. So if you get tight to the wire with paying or losing, you file a petition with the tax court. It stops all the collection efforts. Then the first thing that happens is it kicks back to docketed appeals. So you get a whole nother bite at the apple. And you're not dealing with the collections people. You're not dealing with exam. You're dealing with appeals at a higher level than you normally would. So you get people who are more knowledgeable, more experienced. You're dealing with a tax counsel for the IRS, and 95% of all U.S. tax court cases are settled pre-court. So you're probably going to get a better deal than if you're trying to fight it out with collections or an appeals hearing, because they don't want to go to court. If they lose when they go to court, then a precedent is set. So the hazards of litigation are in many cases on the IRS, not on you, because you know your maximum liability. The liability that the IRS undertakes may be far, far more than they're willing to take on.
Wow, that's so enlightening. I'm going to make sure I encapsulate that for myself and for our listeners. So, to file a petition, $60, right, in U.S. tax court, and versus potentially an attorney, $5,000. That's the first thing. Two, once you are, I guess, in this petition stage, you can defer the payments. In other words, you're moving it out of collections where perhaps they don't really have the authority, they're just there to collect. And now you're going to actually fight and appeal, and you're going to defer the payment until the case is solved, which gets kicked back to appeals at a certain point, or maybe during this period of time, which you're dealing with people who can actually perhaps negotiate, right, or work through this. And 95% of these are solved pre-trial because if they were, the IRS is risking not only your case, but a new precedent moving forward, which obviously could be even more costly. Is that a fair summary?
Fair summary.